right, I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee on January 14th, 2025 at 4:56 PM. We'll start with roll call. Alder Gavin.
Here.
Alder Johnson.
Here.
Alder Hinkfast.
Here.
Okay, and then we're on to approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. D, approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. On to regular business. Number 1, consideration with possible action to approve the contract extension with Axon Enterprise, Inc. for the Green Bay Police Body Camera and Taser Program for a 5-year commitment through 2030. Total cost for this is $4,125,000. And staff.
Come on
do
up,
we-
Chief.
I saw the presentation, but are we doing the presentation?
I can tell you're peeking, like, do I need to come up?
I didn't know if you would have any questions.
I have just one.
Sure.
Okay. So we're looking at $4.1 million.
Right.
Does not include $620,000 for 2025. So are the costs going up?
Yes, the costs are going up for 2 reasons. One is that just the costs are going up because they charge more for the service that we use.
Okay.
The other is that we're adding some things that they can give us where we think we can offset a little bit of the cost with savings in other places.
Okay.
So, for example, there is an automatic transcription service that we will be able to get with this, which would mean that we could either save on transcriptionists positions, or more likely what we would want to do is reclassify those to public records specialists because of the huge volume of public records requests that we get. There are public records folks who are just buried in work.
Okay.
So we could repurpose those positions, but it would spare us from having to make budget addition requests to get more people doing public records work, which is a pretty urgent need in the organization. And there are some upgrades to some equipment and some other things we get out of this. There's also the automated license plate reader option that could be added on to our in-car cameras. And then we could have some discussions about our current automated license plate reader program and maybe
away
moving
with
to
one.
this rather than that.
Makes sense. All right.
The original contract on this, was it for 3 years? When we did the first one?
It was a 5-year.
5.
Has it been 5 years since we've had this already?
We're in our 5th year, we just paid for the 5th year, which really ends at the end of 2025, but we're looking at the next contract. That's why on the paperwork, you're seeing it's really effective December of 2025, so it really starts from 26 through 30.
Right, and the, that original 5-year deal, I remember the Green Bay Packers had made a contribution. Did that really just offset the first year, and then now it is in our operating budget?
Yes.
And, so when we're looking at this 4.125, Alder Galvin mentioned it, right, about the increase. What type of, I didn't see this, but what type of levy impact is that annually? Like the increase? Like what do we pay now compared to what this will be?
The 2025, the one that was paid on December 24, it was $620,000, and it's going up to $825. So it's a $200,000 increase annually, correct. But as Chief had said, there are a couple expenses that they could potentially could eliminate because it's now going to be included in this new package. We do have our procurement manager, Tom Malinsky, also on the line. Tom, if there's anything you want to add?
Could I ask Tom a question, or maybe the chief can answer that? What does our current plate reading program cost us per year?
I have to look that
Yeah, that's what I
up,
thought.
because I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's, I'd have to look that up.
We got rid of our-
106,000
So, there you go.
is about slightly over $100,000 annually.
Are we in a contract currently with that though?
That'll expire at the end of this year,
Okay.
so we won't have an obligation
Okay.
to that vendor when this takes over, because that's what we do.
So the increase, is it with these added on?
Correct.
with them added on, so we will ultimately phase it out, and 200,000 will pay for itself?
Right, we could phase it out. Currently, we're not making use of it. You know, like you talked about the dictation, or,
So.
we're not currently using any of that right now.
Right, but I'm assuming that's an extra cost.
That's an extra cost. We don't use the transcription services right now, but that could do one of two things. It could save us a transcriptionist position with pay and benefits. Our preference would be to reclassify that to meet unmet needs in public records redaction. So there's roughly 70,000 or so right there, and then 106,000 for automated license plate reader that's pole mounted right now, as opposed to having it in the officer's car.
I guess I look at the advantage here is we're going to pay $4,125,000 whether we use the transcriptionist or not, or the plate reader or not. Is that true?
No, I think, and I've got Rick here with me who deals directly with Axon, but no, we could get what we currently have for less. I'm not sure that the math works out as favorably though as it does if we add these things and recognize the savings in other places.
Right.
If we just wanted what we had, I think the contract went up, what, Rick, by
20,000.
right. But then you increase the cost for what we already have, you're paying $125,000 more for the thing you already have, or you recognize $170-ish thousand worth of savings in other places, and get these add-ons, it
Right.
comes out to $30,000
Oh,
more.
for example,
instead of
how many
100.
plate readers do we have?
We have 40.
We have 40 right now?
40 fixed locations and 2 mobile ones.
Okay, so if we had all the cars with them, that's what you're saying, is the cars,
Yeah.
that would increase the amount of plate reading we have going on?
It would, and it wouldn't. What it would do is it would change the way the program impacts operations. Right now, stolen car drives past a plate reader, an alert happens, and if somebody can get to where the stolen car is and go find it because it's
Right.
moving, then we catch the stolen car. What this would do is stolen car happens to be next to the police, and the officer
Right.
gets a notification that that right there is a stolen car. And so you're more likely to catch that person in the moment than you would be with pole mounted.
How about as an investigative tool, with the pole mounted, are there certain things that would give our investigators that mobile cars wouldn't?
Yes. What you'll get, obviously with pole mounted plate reader cameras, those are in the same place all the time, and we know exactly what time this car went by this location, or if we want to query this location for a specific kind of car, then we can ask that camera if it's seen it. In practice, what car-mounted ALPR gives you is you'll still get a lot of that data that you can go back and look at if you're doing an investigation, because you never know where a police car is going to be in the community. Or if you have a specific, like a criminal intelligence reason, you would never do this at a thing like a protest or a First Amendment event. But if for some reason there's something happening where you have enough of a criminal nexus to do this, you could also just park a patrol car in the area if you want to collect
Sure.
license plate information for a specific criminal investigative reason in one location, or every time the car drives through a parking lot, it picks up every license plate of every car that's there at that time, tells you what license plate it was and where you were when you saw it. It's just a different way of collecting probably a similar volume of data.
All right, as to the records requests, do you know approximately what the waiting time is now for requests?
I don't. I would have to get that information and get back to you.
Okay. Because I guess I'm looking at it as, if you can do this transfer like you're talking, and if people are waiting an exorbitant amount of time to get those requests, and it leaves your staff the inability to do it, to get it timely, and also if anyone gets sick or anything, then you gotta pull other people, or
Right.
the line gets steeper. I look at this as an advantage, to the public that are looking for that information.
And there's two advantages there, because usually in records, what happens is we're chasing one of two backlogs. It's either a backlog in public records requests, or we'll devote a lot of effort to getting those done, and then we'll develop a backlog in records finishing, which slows down crime data collection. And so you'll see IBR submission delays and problems that come out of that. So we're pretty underwater in records right now.
So as I'm looking at this, Chief, and again, I want to make sure I'm following the right, the right thing here. And so our current tech right now, if I'm reading this right, is $620,000 a year.
Right.
So we're going to go with this proposed tech. We're going to back out this year's rate. Now that said, if we still looked at it holistically, it's $4.745 million. This is an added $200,000 a year, right, to our levy, just so that everyone's following the numbers here, right? The one thing though that I saw, and I don't, this is, future pricing is estimated on a 7.5% annual compounding rate of increase. So is this not a guaranteed contract? And are we still gonna see increases?
I'm not sure that's how this works. This should be a guaranteed rate for every year.
Yeah, we'll already look this over. That compounded rate would be if we wait more time to, say we go through the whole year with the current contract and renegotiate this again, that's gonna be a compounding effect.
Got it, okay. And then, and again, this is, right now, fully levy supported, and these are basically like a lease essentially of the equipment, right? This is not gonna be a capital purchase where we're gonna end
No.
up taking a note or a bond?
No, the equipment itself is a lease, and then we also have unlimited data storage on their servers that comes with this as well. So you do save some money over having to maintain on-premise servers for all these terabytes
Sure.
of data.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking, right, is I think in the past, this was even before I was on council, Bill probably remembers this, there's always this desire to keep the taxes low, and we're not gonna raise the taxes, and so we started bonding for operational needs, and I feel like we spent a lot of time over the past 6 years unwinding a lot of that, and, if we're adding 200,000 here, and I know that there's some other requests that are even before us today, right, that are starting to add on, I mean, I'm already seeing how we're gonna end up in the hole already for next year. And I just wanna make sure that we're not finding ourselves in a spot where we're gonna default to bonding for operational needs again in the future, so.
Sure. And this is something that has become some kind of, at least body-worn camera program has become industry standard. Some kind of electronic control device has become an industry standard. So these are costs that I would be recommending to you that you do these things one way or the other, because the potential costs of not doing them now they could be even worse. The risk that we're taking is probably not worth it. So the way I encourage people to look at this proposal that we have is, yes, it's more overall that is going into this contract. That amount for these industry standard things that we really should not stop doing is going up one way or the other, and by adding a few things and increasing the total cost of the agreement, we will at least be able to either repurpose resources to improve service somewhere, or, in the case of license plate readers, there's the potential to save some money and actually increase our general fund expense less than we would if we just stuck with what we have now and it was $120,000.
Yeah,
That
and I
makes sense.
appreciate that, Chief, and obviously, 5 years ago when we first made this decision, we had a really good philosophical discussion, right? And I feel like that piece is solid, right? So to me, it's just really understanding the number side of this now and the impact that this has on our levy into the future. And to your point, it might create some savings, but it only creates the savings if we actually reduce something, right? If we just reallocate it or reclassify it, we haven't really saved. And so, and I'm trying to look at this holistically, where you are one request in front of us, but we've got others too. And I'm starting to see these numbers pile up already for next year. And it gives me a little bit of pause, and maybe Diana's got her arms around it, and we're gonna trust that, but I just think it's something as a committee we've got to keep our eyes on.
And is there grants out there for this?
Not really.
No.
There were several years ago when, before these became so universal. But
Right.
to maintain an existing program, you know, I can't say that there aren't any, but I don't know of any.
Yeah, there always are when it first comes out. Now it's adopted and it raises taxes, but
Did we compare with other companies, get bids from multiple companies, or is it just this what?
There's just one, right? Pretty much.
Is this the
There
only
are
company?
others, but when you look at what you get, and the ease of operation, you know, I wasn't here when the decision was made to go with Axon in the first place, so I can't speak to what selection process there was, but certainly for body-worn camera and TASER electronic control device, this is one of the better ways of doing this out there.
And I can add to that. We did look at options last time and talked about the different brands and their limitations and their advantages. You know, to me, Alder Grant, it's akin like to, like, if you're using Microsoft Office, do you put that out to bid, right? And see what other types of software packages can maybe deliver the same thing, or do you just know that Microsoft is what you want versus a knockoff brand, right, or something else? So that's kind of how we probably settled on this particular type.
And in order to change to something else, the transition costs would be astronomical.
Okay.
It's a very effective business model.
Any other questions?
Just that this includes the replacement of,
Right.
right. so-
Yeah, that's part of the deal, is you never have to worry about a piece of equipment. If it breaks, we send it to them and they send us a new one.
Right, and then they've got a time limit on them, and then we get a new one again, so it's, I mean, they've got a good business model. It's like Motorola when you're looking at radios. You know, they're the industry leader.
All right, any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Chief.
second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, consideration with possible action to approve ordering of 2026 and 2027 Department of Public Works equipment to secure build slots for future years.
This is, I read through the material, it's pretty much like with the fire department. And in fact, this is not the first time we've gone for looking to reserve units in advance, is it?
It is not. Little bit different. Same track as what we did with fire, but a little different.
Right.
We got our fleet manager, Nathan Wackendonk, is here. Nathan was the one who actually wrote the memo that I get to put my name on. The difference is, with a fire vehicle, it's purpose-built around that chassis, so it takes that long to build it.
Right.
With ours, to oversimplify, a truck is a truck is a truck, okay? So that truck could be a sewer truck, it could be a garbage truck, or it could be a dump truck. It's just a truck. So it's a cab, frame rails, and a drivetrain and motor. Then we have to send it to a second vendor, and he puts the garbage body on it, or a dump body, or whatever the truck's gonna be when it grows up. The limiting factor is engine and transmissions. Engine and transmission manufacturers are not the same as the truck manufacturers. So a Peterbilt truck may have a Cummins engine in it, may have a Jericho transmission, okay? The engine manufacturers and the transmission manufacturers only manufacture a certain number of units every year. Those are spoken for by the truck manufacturers. Right now, as we speak, the 2020, so then the truck manufacturers have vendors across the United States, and they allocate the number of trucks they're going to build in any given year to their vendors. Right now, as we speak, vendors are sucking up their allocations for 26. So January 25, and all vehicles that will be produced in 2026 are being spoken for right now. So if you don't get your name on one of those build slots, a year out. You won't get a truck till 27 if you ask for one at the beginning of 26. So, I mean, that's kind of the difference. Ours aren't necessarily a purpose-built vehicle. That truck could be used for many different things, but because it's used for many different things, there's more competition for that as well. And there is a scarcity because the number of vehicles is limited by the number of motors and transmissions that are being manufactured.
Motion approved. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Steve, just know that this is by no means directed at DPW, because I know you guys need these, and of all the departments, I think you guys are the department that has been very resourceful in holding on to things probably longer than their useful life, so, but, you know, obviously, police and fire, we kind of rifled through and said, yeah, sure, and that's why I say, this isn't directed at you, but I think you're just the one at the end of the line now, where we've done this for police, and we've done it for fire, and now we're being asked to do it here as well, and I know that's, you know, I mean, is this gonna be kind of this expectation, right, of the new normal? In which case then, I think we've got to look more closely at our CIP, because while we put the 5-year CIP together, we spend most of our time on the 1-year CIP. Do we need to start looking more intelligently at 2 and 3 year as well? Because, you know, if Ehlers tells us, hey, you can borrow 18 million before you get into trouble, and now we've already obligated here 1.67 just on DPW, another 1.4 the following year, and now we're going to start running up against, you know, police and fire who are also in that number, and we're going to end up having obligated things piecemeal, and then we're going to need, right, a bond request for something else, and we're just out of capacity. And so, as you can see, this is going to become a clumsy process. And Diana, I'm sure you're tracking all this, but I don't know if you've got kind of a gut feel around how, like, is this kind of a new standard expectation, and should we be looking at things further out?
Yeah, of course, I think the backlog and the delays, they're just much longer than they used to be. I think from a finance perspective, we're also asking our departments to spend the money down faster. I just think that sometimes, you know, we always want to make sure that the money's in hand before we go put the order in. And then when we have these long lead times, now we are holding on to borrowed money and then sitting in an account not to be spent, sometimes for a couple of years, which for arbitrary reasons, that's really, we could get penalized, or we could get a charge for holding it too long. So I think for 2 reasons, the longer lead times is something new that I haven't seen except these last couple of years, and we want the departments to spend it down faster. I think those are the reasons why we have started bringing these items to you. Correct, I mean, we have it on a spreadsheet, we're tracking it, we know about it. When we get to the CIP, I try to bold it, say, yep, it's in here, but we already have been obligated by council.
And that's my point, right? Like, I don't want us to blindly be obligating us for stuff.
Yep.
And this just happens to be the one that's here today, right? But this has happened with others. And then, like I said, I mean, this one only is, you know, I don't know, what, 5, 6, 7% of, you know, at least what our limit was for this past year, right? But if we, and that's assuming these are all levy supported.
They're not.
They're not. Okay, so that'll change the formula a little bit, right? But as we all know, I mean, this last, you know, bond cycle, I mean, we had to cut a ton.
Within
right?
that number, I think there was about $4 million of levy supported. There was between a command center and a ladder truck, and then 2 garbage trucks. They were all already pre-obligated. So I
Right.
believe there was about $4 million of that 19 million that we borrowed was obligated from future equipment, or equipment that was already pre-authorized. So we had to include that in our 2025 borrowing. So
Yeah, and I'm good with this one. I want to be clear, and especially, Dan, if you're saying we're tracking, we're good. So I don't want it to be a debate about this necessarily, as it is like, you know, if this is going to be sort of that new normal, I think we've got to be more careful about looking at that CIP for multiple years then.
Yeah, and we're authorizing money for future councils also, a lot of it.
We just did that
Yeah.
with Exxon too.
There's always the option of not replacing my trucks. Okay, I mean, that's reality, you can't. In 2007, when I started with the city of Green Bay, our equipment replacement budget was approximately $1.1 million. 17 years later, I'm at $1.6 million. I have in no way kept up with the cost of inflation. My trucks are 115% more expensive. When I started as a director 12 years ago, I was buying garbage trucks for $225,000. They're now $370 a piece, okay? When I took over as director, my equipment repair budget was $670,000 a year. I spent $1.6 million to replace it, but I spent $670,000 just to fix what I keep on the road. My equipment repair budget right now is $1.2 million. I'm spending as much just to keep my junk rolling as I am replacing.
Yeah, and that's why I want to be real clear, Steve. This isn't about DPW today, right?
No, I understand
Yeah,
that.
but it's
I'm
when these
saying
come
you-
through
you
piecemeal,
have- The
right?
option is out there,
Oh, sure.
but the option is going to carry some consequences, and the consequences means I have more repair bills and I have trucks down more frequently because it's, not only are they only building so many engines and transmissions, there's only so many spare parts out there because if they're not building trucks, everybody in the United States is competing for those repair
Right.
parts because they're all doing the same thing I'm doing.
Yeah, and I agree, Steve, the option's there, especially today, right? Which is, we can say yes to DPW or no to DPW. What I want to do is get us into a better spot where we're looking at this maybe at bond time, where it's like, we're not saying yes or no, we're saying what's more important when we look at the whole slate of needs. And, you know, there have been other departments, right, that have kind of come through this way for various reasons, and I realize there's not always going to be a silver bullet to prevent that, but it creates, I think, sort of a systemic challenge for us.
And your trucks that you have out there, how old? I mean, you have these on a schedule like the police and the
garbage
fire?
trucks we're
and-
talking about replacing are 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
After 8 years, they're pretty used up. Those things are used 220 days a year. So every day we are open for business, garbage trucks roll. Now, what we will do, at the end of 8 years, we are starting to suffer some mechanical issues with chassis and drivetrain. But the bodies on them, okay, what the truck wants to be when it grows up, when we send it out for the second part of the build, that's destroyed. The bodies, the floors on the bodies for garbage trucks are worn through, the hydraulic systems are gone. So what Nathan and his team have been very successful in doing is taking those trucks into the shop and ripping the bodies off. Now, we have old rear load garbage trucks. When there was two guys, one driving and one throwing garbage, okay, that's a rear loader, as opposed to the automated side loaders that tip the cars. They've been ripping the side loader bodies off, and we have a couple, not very many anymore. The old rear loaders, we are actually out scouring. Nathan's team, and Nathan personally, goes out and looks on government auction sites, and he's finding old rear loader bodies. And we're selling our side loader bodies for scrap, taking that scrap revenue, we're going out and buying retired from service rear loaders, bringing those up here, and our team in the shop is mounting those on our out-of-service side loader chassis, and that's what we use to pick up leaves in the spring and fall. So, you know, the old adage is everything but the squeal. This guy and his team is doing that. Now, we've actually wound up where we've sold vehicles to other municipalities, and, you know, we're squeezing everything that we can out of it. But after 8 years, the garbage truck's pretty well used up. Nathan actually maintains, and I don't know if we've provided that to the council in a while, but Nathan maintains for me every year, he updates, we have an equipment report, and it lists the type of assets, so a garbage truck, a dump truck, a salt spreader, what have you. What the industry standard for longevity is. So a dump truck is good for 12 years. Then he has every individual asset, so the individual number of the truck that we maintain, the year it was purchased, how old it is. And most of our stuff, on average, when you average the age of my fleet, now we got 30-some dump trucks, okay? Yeah, there's 3 or 4 of them in there that are 2 years old, because we have been replacing them. But I also have one in there that's 22 years old, okay? So when you look, the average age of our equipment, I think in almost all cases, except possibly our sidewalk tractors. Because when those things are, when they hit the end of their useful life, they literally fall apart. We're scraping them up and throwing them in a front end loader to get them back to the shop. With the exception of our sidewalk tractors, most of our equipment categories, the average age is beyond the useful service life.
I remember, I think you gave us a report last
Yes.
year detailing all the trucks. And
Yes.
And I remember some of the employees talking about how the only way they can fix them is to fabricate it. And,
Correct.
some of
And
the other issues you were facing.
dump trucks, I think we had a lesser number this year, but in 2023, I think it was, or I don't know, maybe it was earlier this year, my mind gets away on me. Dump trucks that we are using to plow snow and haul things around the city, okay, frontline stuff. We actually had to pull dump bodies off of 3 vehicles in 1 year and weld the frames back together because the frames were splitting between the front axles and the drive axles.
You know, we're using trucks on the road for frontline that can't get parts for anymore. So, you know, we're using 22-year-old plow trucks. Those are our main plow trucks for plowing the city. Every time the police, fire call, there's slippery roads for residents, we're out there with those old trucks. And some stuff are being held together by self-tap screws because the dashboard pump check fails anymore. So the engine components aren't available for older Caterpillar engines. Those are our frontline trucks.
I remember the mayor quipped, right, during the budget process when he joked that you guys put him in the worst truck and you guys had to tell him that it was one of our better ones.
Yeah, and I mean, we've gotten a lot of mileage out of this story, we laugh about it, but the mayor wanted to go on a ride along and he spent 3 hours in his passenger seat holding the dashboard in place because he hit the first bump and the dashboard fell in his lap. And he came in and asked me the next day, you know, what, did you pick the worst one? And, no, you were with Ruben, that was actually one of the better trucks.
Yeah.
With the lead times, like this year, we get three plow trucks, 2 garbage trucks. By the time you order them, we're not gonna see them until beginning of 26, you know, Q1, Q2. So that's a whole year without new vehicles. We're trying to repair the old ones. And the maintenance is just gonna, fairly high getting these things, keeping them on the road as well, between the breakdowns and maintenance. Our team's doing a fantastic job keeping our equipment running, but without replacement, we're not gonna have anything to work with it over time.
Okay. Appreciate the insight from both of you. Like I said, I'm fine with this. Just more of a conversation with Diana around sort of the budgeting of all of this stuff. So I would make a motion to approve.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Number 3, consideration with possible action to approve contingency amendment resolution for $4,000 for the Human Resources 2025 operating budget for the Employee Resource Center 2025 fees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Number 4, consideration with possible action to release the city lien and forgivable equity investment pursuant to Mosky Corporation Development Agreement 21-04 for property located at 1420 South Huron Road, as all the requirements have been met.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 5, consideration with possible action to approve a 90-day extension for the planning option to Gardner Fabrication and Design for 5 acres of land located on Erie Road, parcel 21-199.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, consideration with possible action to approve a 90-day extension to planning option to Smet Construction Services for 15 acres of land located on Erie Road, parcel 21-199.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Number 7, consideration with possible action to approve accepting a grant awarded of $916,000 in federal funding through the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Streets and Roads for All SS4A initiative with $229,000 city match.
Did you do this one, Steph?
Sure did.
Congratulations.
Yes.
That's a big grant.
Yes, it is.
The only question I had was our staff time going to qualify for that match?
Yes, hopefully. The Generally speaking, for this grant, they always do 80/20 for every single reimbursement. We're applying for a waiver to allow us to do it more flexibly with our staff time and our CIP project allocations. So we'll be hearing back about that as part of our grant agreement, but if there are any changes, I'll be sure to update this body with that.
Yeah, and that would be the only thing I think that I would want to see is if we, right, if it's staff time, great, right? If it's like, no, you need cash and we have to budget for that, I think that is the type of change that I think we probably want
Absolutely.
to see, but,
At a minimum, I know my staff time will be covered for it, so all that will be in kind, but the rest of it, we have to kind of see how we can allocate that towards the end with our demonstration portion.
okay, that's a big deal. Pat yourself on the back since I can't reach.
$1 million, hey.
Does this cover just the planning aspect of it or implementation?
It does a safety action plan, which is a very small portion of this, and then it's a lot of the demonstration things. So, trying different ways of traffic calming, monitoring speeds, crosswalk enforcement, that sort of stuff. So it's not like hard, like infrastructure implementation that we usually think of, but it's more of those demonstration things to see what works best for the city, so that way we can make better decisions about what infrastructure choices we want to make going forward.
Perfect, thank you.
I think that really goes hand in hand with the traffic calming stuff that the traffic commission's, been trying to
Yeah.
solve.
Credit requests.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, consideration with possible action regarding a budget amendment resolution with unbudgeted overtime for special events.
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, consideration with possible action on a request by Alder Profit to refer staff to explore feasibility of an additional line on the printed city tax bill for the Green Bay Area Public School District to distinguish the voucher dollars over which they have no financial oversight. See, the school district is here to entertain a motion over the floor.
Maybe even start with Alyssa since she,
Yep.
or Elder Prophet since she submitted.
Jump up here. So I think I kind of jumped the gun a little bit at council, kind of providing my rationale. We do have a new body. It's been a year at least since this was discussed. In talking with the director, now's the time to do it. They kind of have to get to the county by March if we want to make any changes. So now's the time. Would love to let the public kind of give their insight, but I think we're getting asked by a billing entity on our tax bill to look into this. And all we're discussing tonight is a referral to staff to come back to us with a decision. So don't need to get into the politics whatsoever for me personally. I just think it's us showing collaboration with the school district, and we owe that to our taxpayers. So that's all I have. Yeah.
You don't want to get into politics. And it should, no, and it shouldn't be a political thing. It should be, do we show it or don't we show it?
Correct.
Right? Is it the right thing to do or isn't it? But is staff going to come back? I mean, last time we talked about this, I think before you were elected, there was a cost thing that was brought up. So is staff going to be looking at that also?
I believe that would be the goal. And I will say I was at that meeting, and it was really disheartening that we couldn't get a referral to staff. So again, that's what I'm at least hoping for
Sure.
this time around, that we can at least have that conversation.
Right.
That conversation was shut down by the previous council, so hopefully we can at least have that. Because I think that's important to know.
Right.
If it's a financial impact, let's have that conversation. Let's continue to collaborate with the school district and see if they'd be willing to partner if there is any financial impact. But we don't know that without having staff look into it.
Okay.
Didn't we, Director Albeck, you might be able to speak to this, wasn't there a somewhat quote thrown out though, by my remembering,
That's
like
what I thought.
$50,000? There was some discussion and thought put into that.
I think it was a very rough estimate at this point. Again, the city of Green Bay, we do not print any tax bills, we don't program the tax bills, and we don't mail the tax bills. That is 100% Brown County. The reason why we talk about March, April, the springtime, is because that is when the county is out ordering a bulk volume of tax bills, these perforated, preformed a type of paper tax bill. And so if we wanted a different type one, we would probably have to pay more per piece. And I don't know if it would cost more to mail or not, right? That all depends upon the type of mailing we would have if you had to insert in. And then there's also programming time potentially to change the tax bill to include this. So these are all completely out of our hands, and so if we do have direction, it's really going to be forwarding it to the county and have them try to put some kind of estimate on. If we make no changes, well, we we would know roughly what the cost is if we were to make changes, what additional costs there would be.
Okay. And would you want this going to everyone that's directly impacted by the Green Bay Public Schools? So that would include Bellevue and Alloway, or just the city of Green Bay residents?
I think we only have oversight over the cities, so that's the scope.
Okay.
So if we're, and this is what I just, again, just trying to understand, right? So if the county is the one that does all that work, why is this coming through Green Bay and why isn't it going to, other than the fact that you're not on the county board, right, stating the obvious, but why wouldn't the county be the one to take this up? Where then you could actually include all of the jurisdictions that the school district is in.
I've been told we would have to make the changes to ours. No.
I mean, I guess it would, I
Would
guess
have
the
to pass
municipality would have to
the district.
decide whether or not they wanted to change it. You're right, if you could get all the municipalities under Brown County that the Green Bay School District is in, there are probably some synergies there, but,
Okay.
I mean, because when we submit our tax information in November, nothing is going to change. We're gonna submit our same mill rate, we're gonna send our same information, all our specials, all that will stay the same. The only thing would change is an additional, either an insert in the tax bill or some additional verbiage on it. And depends upon, and again, part of it is, I don't know how much we're looking to add. If you're looking to add one sentence, there are some small, very, very small boxes on a tax bill you could add without adding any cost. If you're looking for an insert or a much larger piece of information, it would be a change to what we currently send out, and there would be just additional costs. County is 100%, it's really, I guess if the council would have to decide if they wanted to add it or wanted to allow additional information on their tax bill, and then it probably really is in the county's hands whether or not they're willing to reprogram it and what the cost would be.
Okay, so that's fine. We can kind of sort of chalk that up to maybe an unanswered question that requires a little bit more research.
And I just wanted to clarify, your communication strictly says voucher dollars, so it's only voucher that you want disclosed?
Yeah,
Okay.
because that never goes into the hands of the school district. It goes right out of it. And I think we all know they're gonna have to continue to go. I mean, I didn't want to get into the political conversation, but I mean, they're gonna have to continue to ask for public dollars to support their infrastructure. And this is, like I said in the communication, they have absolutely no oversight over these particular dollars. Could they send out mass communications? They have. Could they send out mailers? They have. The tax bill is a guaranteed piece of paper, and it always brings forth questions from the taxpayers. It does for the city, it does for the county, it does for everyone. So to distinguish it is a real easy way when the taxpayers are already questioning, why did I just have to approve a referendum? And now they're a majority of my tax bill. I just think it's an easy, foolproof way to assist and collaborate with our school district.
And isn't part of the issue also, the state of Wisconsin through the Constitution requires public education. And the dollars that are being transferred out of public education into other schools, the standards aren't the same. So we've got 2 education systems and only 1 administrator.
You could say that.
And that's the
Okay.
That's the
politics
political
into this,
piece,
right?
right.
But, that's right, if we're to focus really just on the administrative piece, and I think if the county is the one that prints it, mails it, does all this stuff, right? And we're just a party to this being asked, through the communication, right, to change it, why can't the school district do the same thing on their portion of the tax bill? Maybe there are folks from the school board here that have that answer, but why does the city have to be the conduit, right? Why can't the school district just go right to the county and request that change? Just like we're being asked to do it for the school district. Does that make sense?
It does and it
It
doesn't.
does.
I'm not sure what the real procedure is. Does each community have to specifically ask for a change in that individual community's tax bill? Or does the county just arbitrarily make decisions on what they're going to put on the tax bill?
Well, it's the city of Green Bay, and it's the city of Green Bay school system. Then you have a Schwabenen school system, de peer.
Right.
But you have Alloway and Bellevue under the same umbrella, so it's different. So I'm understanding what Alder Johnson is saying. and again, this is where I would like to open the floor and be able to ask the
Yep.
school district. So I don't know what we can accomplish right now. If we
Right.
can
Let's
motion
open
on
the
the
floor.
floor.
Absolutely.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, floor is open. You can state your name and address for the record.
My name is Laura McCoy. I live at 740 South Jackson Street in Green Bay. I am the president of the Green Bay School Board. I'm joined by Rick Crossan, who is also a member of our school board, and we're here to talk about, we passed a resolution in November of 2023 around this issue. You guys, at least some of you, have already addressed this last January, so about a year ago. I'm going to read just the part where the most important part of this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the School Board of Green Bay Area Public School District requests the City of Green Bay and surrounding municipalities in the GBAP's attendance area to include annually in their property tax bills the amount of the GBAP's levy that is for the purpose of capturing the state aid that is withheld from GBAPs to fund voucher and independent charter school payments. So, I think our request is just really simple. We want, we just passed a referendum. And the tax bills, property tax bills, people are in the process of paying those right now. And you are hearing from them, we are hearing from them as well. And on behalf of taxpayers, they've kind of, I think we ask a lot of them with these referendums, these constant referendums. And this resolution is sort of a plea to have more transparency. I think you've probably noticed that our school district has had to make some really hard decisions around closing schools and getting tighter with our budget. And it's been a very painful and very public process. We've had to make some very tough decisions in recent years, and in the process pass referendums. Now, the people in Green Bay have been incredibly generous and have passed these referendums, and we're very, very grateful for that. But the taxpayers are starting to wake up to the fact that they are, the reality that they're having to, we are going to the local taxpayers to make up for the funding lost through vouchers. Again, we ask a lot of our taxpayers. We represent, my constituents are your constituents. We are representing the same people. And I think in the end, the bottom line for me is the least that we can do for them is to have tax bills that are accurate, that are honest. That, when I talk to my constituents and tell them, that line that says Green Bay Public Schools, that money doesn't all go to Green Bay Public Schools. A big chunk of that, in our case, about $12.5 million this year, is going to go to schools that are not Green Bay schools. When I tell people that, they are often kind of incredulous. They're like, no, that can't be right. That can't be accurate. And they feel duped. They feel lied to. I'm not exaggerating when I say that they feel misled. So the remedy for that is to have that indicated on the tax bill. I pulled out my tax bill today to look at it. I pay taxes in this city too, a lot of taxes. And there's plenty of room for another line. We have to put what taxpayers are paying for the city, for NWTC, for referendums. We can tell them what I think we have the space and to tell people where their money is going. That it's not going all to the Green Bay Public Schools. People ought to know that. Let me see. I guess the last thing I'll leave you with, before I'm happy to answer questions as best as I can, is I've never had a constituent tell me they want less transparency. I don't think that day will ever come, and it's probably never happened to you either. So, I guess with that, I'll again, to the best of my ability, public school funding is incredibly complicated. And I'm 8 years into this gig and I still struggle with it. So, anyway. Go ahead, Bill.
So have you checked to see what the process is? Does Green Bay have to ask Brown County, or could the school board simply go to Brown County and ask?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Ryan.
So at least in the resolution here, right, it says that you're going to make this request to City of Green Bay and surrounding municipalities. So are you also putting this in front of Village of Alloway, Bellevue, any others?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. And
You guys are the big dogs, so we're going to start with you.
Yep, understood. And again, just thinking about the timing, right, that was just shared with us, that this would have to be decided by March.
Right, so we gotta go.
It's springtime. I'm not 100% sure. We would reach out to Brown County, but sometime in April, I think last year is when Brown County came back and said, hey, because we had talked about this a year ago, and he said, I'm about to order my forms, and I need to know whether or not if you're going to be making any change to your tax form bill.
Okay.
So,
And then the other piece of this for me is, and Diana, maybe you know this or not, right, but does the county ask that same question of the school district? Right, if they're asking you if there's going to be a change to the forms, I presume they're also asking the school district, right?
well, all information for the school district comes from the municipalities. The school districts do not send anything directly to the county.
Got it.
If they, all our mill rates come directly from every municipality. They submit all the mill rates, including all the taxing jurisdictions. We send the mill rates to the county.
Okay, and then is the intent to just print the flat rate, or, and the reason I'm asking, right, because this can impact the way a motion could potentially be worded in the action is, I mean, are we just looking to print the flat amount, or are you looking to print like a proportionate amount relative to that home's assessable value?
Yes, I would think that the latter. You know, my understanding is that the same way any item gets put on that tax bill, right? It's a computer program that generates that information and prints that tax bill for that particular taxpayer. So I'm assuming that this could be modified in order to show that amount. Okay.
So, when you're figuring out your budget every year and what the mill rate is gonna be, you do it knowing that X is never gonna be part of your budget.
Right, so then we have to turn around and levy for that amount because we have to fill that gap.
Right. So, if it was to be separated, and it's worded like, say, voucher schools, and it says $12 million, what's the mill rate for that?
Not sure. I'm not sure if I follow you.
Well, doesn't it,
Because how
on our
can you
tax bills,
calculate
doesn't it
your
list the
You'd have
mill
to
rate?
calculate the mill.
Yeah, you'd have to figure out,
You'd
right,
have to
that
figure it
12.5
out.
million as a percentage of the total levy of the school district, back out what's Green Bay versus these other villages, municipalities, calculate the equivalent mill rate, times, right, their assessable value. So that's why I was asking the question, right?
Right.
Because that's a lot more work and effort than just printing a flat amount.
But wouldn't the school be responsible for coming up with those figures, just like they have to come up with the figures that they give to us, that we give to Brown County?
We would have to do that,
No,
right? Because,
Well, they give us the information that we put on our tax bill. So yes, in a way, you guys would have to tell us what portion that is.
And I can just say, I spoke with other members of the school district, not the board, but actual staff, and they also indicated that's the preferred option for them, and they would absolutely provide that number.
okay. And the only reason I was assuming it'd be us is because Green Bay would be different than Bellevue, Alloway, but what
Correct.
you're saying is that the number still comes from the school district.
Correct.
Okay.
Just like NWTC, they send us that information,
Correct.
We plug it in.
They send us a levy amount, just like school district sends us a levy amount. You add that to your spreadsheet, you divide it by our assessed value, and that's how you get a mill rate.
What about Brown counties?
Same thing, they send us a levy, we drop it in our spreadsheet, divided by our assessed value, gets
Figure
the
it
mill
out.
rate, we send it back to Brown County to tell them what their mill rate is for the city of Green Bay.
So the process for this is well established. I mean, I don't see a problem doing it, just an additional line. It's a computer program to figure, you know, the entities know how to figure this stuff out.
Alder Eck.
So in reading that, it says to distinguish the voucher dollars over which they have no financial oversight. So my question is, do you have financial oversight to the money that follows the students to Ashwaubenon, to Pier, and Howard, Swamico?
No, that's open enrollment, that's a different, it's calculated differently. This is only for voucher and independent charters.
But you don't have oversight over that?
I believe the state does it. Yeah.
No direct oversight, but we know how much it is and where it's going.
But the state has a different way of calculating that, and it's not something we have oversight over.
So you don't have oversight over that or the voucher? I just am trying to, you know, because it's kind of all under that umbrella.
But the voucher money
not-
passes through our district and then leaves, yeah. Whereas the open enrollment is calculated in a whole different way.
It's
So-
open enrollment at the public schools. So when
Yeah.
you're talking about that, and you say at the state level, it's because the state is setting the state.
They're very different entities as far as how that's done.
But all the funding is from the state, it's just how it flows is differently. But, so I have some questions. Open enrollment though, you get a portion of that money, even though there's not a body in the seat.
I believe that's correct, but I couldn't tell you with certainty how much it is.
Yeah, and I'm not worried about, my point is you get that funding, so would you want to disclose that on the tax document
No,
as well?
We're not asking for that. That's calculated, like I said, that is calculated in a different way. That is not part of this discussion.
Correct. I'm aware it's not, but you mentioned full transparency, and you even said yourself that it's incredibly complicated, so I'm a little nervous that if we have one line item on it, that's not, you're not being transparent if you're not showing the full story, and you lose those funds to open enrollment, yet you're gaining some funds to that, so it's just, it is very complicated.
If I may, the voucher dollars is the only line item on our budget, on our entire budget that is not visible to the public. All the other, the open enrollment dollars are. So that would not apply in what was just said. The only line item dollar amount, because it does come into our budget and then it goes out, and we don't report it and we don't account for it because there is no, is the voucher dollars. So that's the only one line item in the entire school budget, as I understand it, that is not visible to the public, and that's why we're asking for this part of it to be made transparent.
Sure, just a
Tax
reminder, we got 5 minutes. We think that somebody on the public that also on Zoom wanted to speak.
Okay, I just have a few questions. Who qualifies for vouchers? How are vouchers issued and how does that work?
There are restrictions on income, those, they're caps, and anybody can within that scope. Those caps are about to fall off either next year or the year after, and there'll be no restrictions on income at all.
For families of 3, there's a cap of earnings of $54,000. For families of 4, less than 4, excuse me, 4, the earnings is $66,000.
But it's income-based?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of decoupling and that bill, a bill was brought forward a year ago and did not pass? Do you think decoupling would solve this problem?
I'm not really sure about that. I know that is before the legislature. It has been for a long time with no action. The decoupling, I mean, we've been talking about that for a while. Nothing quite seems to happen with it. And I've been talking to people down in Madison about that, like where are we on that? And, you know, this is where you get super political, not just a little bit, but super political as to what the legislature is going to do along with the governor with regard to the budget. There'll be a lot of negotiation. People will be holding on to various aspects of the process as bargaining chips. And the people I talked to could not guarantee me, they could not say for sure if that was ever going to pass or whether the governor would ever sign it. So, you know, we've been waiting a long time for anything to happen on that. I have no faith that it will. That's kind of where I am.
Yeah, because it's my understanding it made it to the Senate and failed, and our representative actually voted against it. Okay. What do we want to do with time? I have more questions, and we have someone to speak, so.
I mean, the other thing that we can do is break and come back, but when you've got guests here that want to speak, that complicates things, but.
Or you could push it to the next meeting.
Okay, but we push it, well, my only concern is if March, and we don't know that, it could be April,
Right.
but if we push it to the end of January, then that's the middle of February before council gets a kick at it if they do. Otherwise, if it goes to staff, it could be March before the council gets a kick at it. But I also don't want to leave peoples here, you know, who want to speak hanging.
I think the decision, I think tonight truly is, are you going to refer it to staff to see if there's additional costs, or can this be done, right? Is that I think
That's
is the
what I'd like to
decision.
find
That's
out.
really the decision here.
Right, I'd like to find out who has to get it on the bill, whose responsibility is it, and if it is ours, is there a cost associated with it? I don't think anyone here is against transparency, okay?
I hope not.
Well, I don't think anyone is. I mean, I've heard transparency from everybody on the council, and I think if Green Bay was giving Bellevue part of its take, and the taxpayers thought it was coming to us, I would want everyone to know, and there's one way to do it. You're right, you can send out all the letters you want, and how many people do we send letters to every year about garbage pickup and everything?
Yeah.
And we still got to deal with it on a case-by-case basis. And the tax bill is the one thing that people look at. And like you said, we've all gotten comments already. And I'm trying to, I don't want this to get political, because that's not what this is about. The law of the land is there's a voucher program, it's here. I don't think it's going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere.
I just think transparency-wise, if we can get it out there so it's transparent, and then we're done with it.
My fear is the cost, though. So to me, I wouldn't mind holding this and have you approach the county. Again, why is this coming to, I understand we report it.
Or should we send it to staff and have staff do the research?
Yes.
Because if the county says, no, that's on you guys, and then, well, okay, what would you charge us to put this in here? Would you charge us? Is there a charge? I don't know.
So Alder Grant, you're for transparency, it's just the cost that concerns you?
Well, yeah, and staff time, and I do think I'm a
But
little.
you're okay with the transparency part?
I believe if we're gonna be transparency, I would like to see more information on there, because the reality is, the voucher is 4.5% of your budget, and the information is public.
It's actually closer to 11
Of your full budget.
of our operating, our Fund 10.
The 311 million, it's 4.5%. And you can find the voucher information online, the dollar amount, and you do an annual budget meeting. So, to me, like I said, it's very complex. I don't know if adding one line item is truly being transparent. And that's what I'm opposed to. And also, these funds come from the state. I don't even believe this is something that should be in our lap. If the funding is coming from the state, and did you guys know the city of Milwaukee actually does have a decoupling? They don't funnel money through like we do. The mayor was able to get it approved. The Milwaukee School District already decouples.
Is that because they're a city over 500,000?
They're a class.
No, they're in a completely different category that was established years and years ago. Their funding comes straight from the state, and it's not done the way the rest of the state is.
Right.
So it's possible, though. My point is that if a municipality is doing it and it's working, I just wonder if the problem is actually above us.
If the city of Milwaukee is handled differently than the city of Green Bay, it's something we can't get into. I would be interested in just a simple referral to staff. They come back, it's not gonna cost anything, or it's gonna cost a lot, or we don't even have the right to ask. They have to go to the county. Get a couple of simple answers, nails it down. And where we go from there then is a day for another meeting where.
Does the rest of the council have to vote on referring it to staff? then?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be.
Well, it would have to be approved by the council. Yeah, we.
Yeah, but not, next week, we'd have that vote.
So next week at your city council meeting, you could have it on the agenda to refer to council?
Yeah,
or refer
regardless
to
of what
staff?
motion is made here,
Yeah.
it becomes part of a consent agenda
Mhm.
recommendation on next week's council meeting.
Okay.
And
So-
then that can be pulled and talked about all over again, right? And so, I'm okay too with the referral, and really, you're just saying, like, Diana's gonna have a conversation and get answers to the questions we're asking. I do think that there's room for us to probably have a broader conversation yet
Yes.
later, but like I said, to me, the cost of a phone call is practically nothing. So, like, I'm good with that and getting answers to some of the basic questions we asked.
So I would make a motion just to refer to staff to get those answers
Okay,
and then bring it back to the committee.
Yeah, I would second that.
all right, all
Is
those
there
in
still
favor?
someone wanting to speak on this?
Well,
We're at 6 o'clock. We
Time.
have to just-
Just pointing that out.
I know.
Yeah, and in fact, even before that motion, Billy, we could have a motion to close the
Was
floor.
it Jim?
Why was this so late on the agenda? Maybe it should have been at the top.
Well,
Yeah.
It was a special meeting that,
We have a special council meeting at 6, and that's the problem, because it's posted for that time.
So let me just get straight, what's going to happen now?
well, first we gotta close the floor.
Okay.
And then we gotta do the motion to refer to staff.
Yeah, and then it will go on next week's council meeting as a recommendation with however the votes land. And then it can be polled and really debated all over again, right?
So you expect next week then that there would be a debate or a discussion?
There may or may not be, because I would hope the rest of the council would want to at least get the answers before we have a debate. It makes no sense to have a debate without information.
answers.
Then you're just spinning your wheels.
But I know why you're asking, because last time, right, it didn't move on, right? And so
Yeah, there was
it's
some-
in your best interest to at least be present at council, because you never know what's gonna happen with any item. So it would be my recommendation that you do attend in case it is pulled and talked about.
I'll make a motion to close the floor.
Second.
okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries, the floor is closed.
Make a motion to refer to staff.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
No, not at all.
Informational 2024 contingency account, $138,788. 2025 contingency account, $100,000. Next finance committee will be held on January 28th, 2025 at 4:30. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye, we're adjourned.
Laura? Yes. Information that
All right,
you
Brian,
can
I'm
send out
jumping
to
on.
work with you. Again, I'm not sure, I would like
What's
to.
that?
I'm jumping on.
Oh, yeah, because you're gonna be mobile.
Yep.
Yeah.